Thank you guys all for being here today, and welcome to our Getting Started webinar. So this webinar is meant for those people who have signed up for Houzz Pro in the past few months. Maybe you're just getting started, maybe you've already dove in, but you need some help on a few different areas and you're looking to kind of cover all the basics so that you can set your company up for success. My name's Abby, and I'm on the product marketing team here at Houzz. So what that means is that I get to work really closely with our customers and pros like yourself to get feedback on Houzz Pro, understand how you're using the platform in your day-to-day, and work closely with our product and engineering teams to make sure that we're building the right products and right features for our customers. So I'm super excited to be here today. We also have Sandro with us here as well. Sandro, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Sandro. I'm a client onboarding specialist here at Houzz. So today we're going to be walking through on how to get set up and use our most important features. And then especially the ones that we feel are most important to understand is your starting point on using Houzz Pro. As we're going through the presentation, if at any point you guys have questions about anything that we're covering, please feel free to add your questions to the Q&A tab. Okay, let me share my screen with everyone. So what you see in front of you is the Houzz Pro software. In this area, there's a lot of quick access tabs in here. First thing we want to do is we want to start into the sections of setting yourself up for success. So we're going to go into the settings sections in here. And what we want to do is we want to focus on creating the company. We want to go on creating your team members. So this is where you get to invite your team members. All you do is go up here to the top right, click on team member. In here, you want to define the team member's role. Are they going to be an administrative person where they get access to a lot of these different functions, automatically get access to those? Field crew, where they get access to a lot of functions, but you also, are they going to get access to your project folders, your lead folders? If you've got existing folders, do you want them to have access to your current folders as well as your current lead folders? So you'll be able to determine all that. And all you do is up here is you're going to enter their email address. And I'm going to use mine as an example. And then you just send out the invitation. Yep, we'll leave that as field crew. Perfect. So you send that out. Now when they receive the invitation, they have to accept. And then this status will change from sent to activated, as you see here. And then once you see that they've been activated, you can go into the edit mode in their folder. And this is where you can double check all the settings. So even if you've got a field crew, let's say he's your project manager, if you want him to have administrative permissions, you can certainly activate any one of these functions, all of them or as many as you want. And same thing with projects. So with project folders, you give them access to all of these different functions that are activated. Let's say you also want them to have access to all your invoices and estimates, change orders, purchase orders. These are common documents that, let's say, a project manager would have access to. And then you can also go into the project access tab and indicate which folders you want them to have access. So if you want them to have access to everything currently in your portfolio, you can, or you can just simply say, let me go through each folder one at a time to see which one I want him to have access to. So you can do either one of those. Same thing with down in permissions for leads. It's the same setup. You can go in here and also determine which folders you want them to have access to. And then any marketing permissions you want to grant them will be down here as well. Then all you do is save the changes. Okay. The other thing we want to look at is in this section is also doing the QuickBooks integration. So again, going into settings, you're going to go to QuickBooks. If you work with QuickBooks, this is where you get to set up your Houzz Pro software and it connects to your QuickBooks. You go up here and to set up your tax agency. In here, you're going to add your QuickBooks username. Once you've added your username, you click on sign on. It's going to ask you for the password. Once you get the password, it then connects. And it's basically Houzz Pro talking to QuickBooks and saying, hey, I want to introduce myself. I'm going to be sending you some information. Just so you know, the information is one way. It all goes out to QuickBooks. Information for, like, let's say, invoices, purchase orders, documents like that, payments, things like that. Okay, next thing we also want to do is, again, in that settings section, is you want to set up your online payments. In this, again, in this section of online payments, there's a 1 minute video here that kind of walks you through and explains to you how this works. I do recommend you look through the video. You want to click on get started. What that does is that sends you an email verification. So it basically wants you to verify that you're the authorized account user for your House Pro account. Once you do that, it's then going to ask you to add in your company information. So you're going to need like your company name, business address, all that information. And then once it confirms all that information, that's going to ask you to add in your bank detail numbers. So you're going to need your bank routing number as well as your account number. Once you add that information, then what it's going to do, there's a little disclosure box at the bottom that explains to you like if your clients pay you using a major credit card, there's a 3.6% processing fee that applies. If they pay you through an electronic check like ACH, there's a 1% processing fee. If you don't want to pay those fees, there's an open box that you click on that will transfer those costs, those processing fees, onto your client's bill. So when the homeowner goes to pay, let's say they choose a credit card to pay you, they'll be shown that there'll be a processing fee. It'll tell them the exact amount of what that amount will be. And so you'll find that a great majority of homeowners would prefer, just for convenience purposes, would prefer to pay you that way. Plus, a lot of homeowners have points that they are accumulating on their credit cards. So they want to take advantage of all of that, all of those bonuses. And that's how you're going to set up your online payments. And the one last thing in this section that I do recommend is also the Clipper tool. We're going to talk a little bit more about what the Clipper tool does. What that is, when you click on here, it's the same process. It's going to say get the Clipper pool. There is a 4-minute video here to the right that kind of walks you through how that works. The Clipper tool is amazing tool that allows you to go on external websites and grab product products from external websites. So, for example, let's say you're a contractor and you're buying products from Home Depot or Lowe's or from another retailer, and you simply want to use some of the products as examples or specific examples for an estimate you're creating, or maybe you're going to create some kind of a mood board. So you'll be able to copy that information and upload it to your library that you can now use and to your presentation board with your clients. Okay, we're going to show you an example a little bit later on. Okay, first thing is let's go and let's take a look on projects, how to create a project. Again, the number of ways to be able to do that from your home page up here. You can quickly do that through this tab right here. So click on project. Project name, this is where you get to reference what kind of work you're doing for whom. So for example, let's say you're doing a kitchen and bath remodel. And I would even put, for example, the homeowner's name. So let's say Tom and Jennifer, and that creates the project folder. Once you go into their folder, I'd recommend going up top here to the right. First, go to the client tab information. This is where you want to identify who's your client. So if your client's already in the system, if you added them to your system and you find their name, you can add them through here. If they're not in the system, you simply create a new client. And this is where you're going to add their information. And I do recommend being as thorough in inputting this information as possible, because this information is what's going to show up on their like documents, for example, like estimates and invoices, things like that. So we're going to put in some information here, and then we'll put in a home address. There we go. Now we've got all their information complete. If you had any notes on them, you could put it in there as well. And while you're in here as well, you have a section up here called Teams. Again, this is where you get to decide what team members have access to this folder. So when we gave him access, we said we wanted him to have access to all our project folders. If something's changed and you no longer want him to have access, then just remove it or just leave it activated. Same thing here. You can also include as a project manager that same person to this specific project. So and you can also include subs and vendors in here as well. So they can also be a part of your projects as you're going through this. From here, one of the most requested tools that a lot of our pros are asking about is our takeoff tools. This is a great tool where you're able to upload documents, specifically like floor plans. So, for example, all you do is you upload your floor plan, you go and find the folder, and I'm going to use just, let's see, let's use this one. Usually the uploads are fairly quick. So they'll upload the documentation into there. You say, yes, that's the only one I want to do. You can upload as many documents as you want. A document could be 1 page, it could be 30 pages, it could be 50 pages deep. It just depends on the document. So then this takes you into the folder. So here's where you get to create takeoffs. And the great thing about takeoffs, this is where you're going to be able to measure spaces so that you can use the measurement information to calculate how much material you're going to need, whether it's interior material that you're doing for like an interior home, like build or remodeling project, or an exterior job that you're doing. Again, all you have to do is just input the floor plans. Real quickly up here, you've got a link. This is your project folder manager. So again, if you had multiple folders in here, you could see all the folders and you could literally toggle between the folders in here. To the left here, you're going to see however many pages. When you're dealing with floor plans that have, let's say, 10, 20, 50 pages deep, I recommend going through the most important ones and pinning them, and then switch. Once you've done that, switching to the pin mode, so you only see the most important pages here that you're going to be working with. Otherwise, you're going to be going through, again, a lot of different pages to find the information, and that takes up a lot of time. So it's a little bit of work up front, but it's well worth it because now you're able to kind of isolate the specific pages that are most important. And takeoffs is great. You want to be able to go through this and calibrate it, make sure that your takeoffs is reading the right information. So one of the things I recommend is looking on the floor plan and confirming where the scale is on the floor plan. So a lot of these floor plans you'll see the scales right away. Like here it is right here. So like 1 inch for every 20 feet. So the system defaults to a 1/4 inch for every 1 foot. So all you do is click on that and then you find it. 1 inch for 20 feet. There you go. You say, yep, update the information. So now when you're taking measurements, your measurements should be right on for scale. Otherwise, if they look a little weird, then it's because it's not to scale. Okay. If you're ever, even if you had the right scale according to the floor plan and you're doing some measurements and it doesn't look right, make sure you go down here to find scale. This is where you can manually calibrate a scale. What you want to do is find a measuring point anywhere on the floor plan. Um, so, for example, like right here, it says, let's zoom in here, says 25 feet. So I'm going to use this as a reference to manually calibrate the scale. So all I do is find scale. I click once. I draw my line to the other point, double click, and I say that's 25 feet, no inches. And then it sets the scale and it confirms right here. So 1 inch for every 25 feet, right? So there's the correct scale. So it set the scale. Okay. Next thing in here, in the you've got 3 measuring tools. You've got a rectangle, polygon, length tool. You also have a deduct tool and a count tool, and you're able to annotate, means you're able to write notes in any of the floor plans. Any of these 3 tools that you use, when you select them, you want to create a group. So in other words, group them, like let's say you're doing electrical, yeah, electrical. We'll say they're electrical lines, and we're going to do these with switches. We're going to add these as a favorites. The unit measurement, we're going to say these are squared feet, and we'll create. So anything that we do, let's say we want to run electrical lines, but we want to find out exactly what kind of area we're looking at. So all we do is we just click on one point, drag it, and then release, and then the measurements come out here. Where it says rectangle 1, the rectangle refers to the kind of measurement tool that was used, and the 1 is it's the first measurement in that folder. So this is going to change. What I would do in here, again, if you're working with multiple pages, I would say, let's say reference page 1, and let's call this walk-in closet. We'll say it's a walk-in closet. That way, when you're preparing documentation, you know exactly what room or what page it refers to. Because when you're doing, 5, 10, 30 measurements, you want to be able to reference the information as you're kind of going through this. Okay. Once you've created this, you can do that for any one of these tools as well. The deduct tool allows you to look at an area. And let's say in this space, there was an area in here that you didn't want to include in the measurement. So this is real comes in real handy when you're talking about like bathrooms, when you want to exclude like where the appliance or where the fixtures are going to go and all those things, or like if you're doing siding where the windows are, the doors are. All you do is you find that location in here, you select it and go, I want to exclude that part. So it eliminates that blank area here from the measurement because it's not going to count it as an area where you're going to be putting material in there, right? The count tool, it's the same thing. If we select the category, let's say again, we're going to put light switches. And we'll add this to our favorites. Adding it to the favorites just means you're going to use it over and over. So it makes it easier. So in here, if you have got one switch there, another one here, and another one there, all it does up here, it just counts however many items you have that you want to, use to create an estimate.
Sandra, we have one question from Darren. So when they upload the floor plans and it has multiple pages, do you have to set the scale for each page or does it apply to all?
It applies to no. So the system automatically tries to detect the scale for each page. You do want to double check. I've had this happen before where contractors called me up and said the measurements are off. And so we look at the page scale. The scale matches what the system has. And this is why we do the manual scaling. So we found a measuring point. We confirmed the measuring point. It was different than the scale. Sometimes architects forget or designers forget to change or update the scale on a page. So you do want to double check each page to make sure the scale is correct. And a lot of times you'll do that. Like if you take a measurement and it does not look right, then that's when you want to visually find a reference on the floor plan that you can say, okay, here's a measurement point. Let's manually calibrate this to see if it's the right scale. That's a good, really good question. And that does happen from time to time, by the way. Okay. So this is basically how we create takeoffs. Now, once we've got, let's say, all of our measurements taken care of here, we're going to go to review and estimates. And what this is going to do is this is going to bring together all the information that we've measured, whether it's one page, different pages, even if it's in different folders, excuse me, in different files, it'll show everything here of the file and the page of where the measurement was. And so at this point you can download this information on a spreadsheet. So again, if you want to customize it for some of the work you're doing, because I have a lot of contractors that want to customize the information and add some more information, download it as an XLS format so you can use it with a spreadsheet. If you're ready to go, you just simply create an estimate and it's going to download all this information. And all it's downloading is the information about what the measurements were, right? Like what areas, what part of measurements, and then their quantities and the unit measurements. All the costs like material, labor costs, all of that is for you to fill in, right? Some of these items you can preload existing costs, like if their light switches are the same from one job to another, you can preload that when you're setting the light switches up in takeoffs, or you can simply add the information in here. So in here, again, creating an estimate for takeoffs, all you're doing is adding, whatever the cost is here. Same thing with labor. So you can add the labor costs per unit, whatever it is. And then you've got a markup column up here. Um, this is great. We do recommend you use this markup column. A lot of contractors will build in their profits into the material and or labor sections. And so what happens is when a homeowner goes to, if you've got homeowners that want to negotiate, they're negotiating off of this, and your reference is literally this number, and you don't really have a good handle on what your actual profit margin is in there. This information is for your eyes only. It is not for the homeowner's eyes. So we'll get to that a little bit later, and I'll show you how that works. But let's say in here, we're going to add a 35% markup. Good, we already got it on there. So let's add some numbers in here. This is just for an example. Let me redo this. Let's try this one more time. There we go. Now your values appear here. So when you're creating these estimates from your takeoffs, again, up here, you'll have your subtotals. Subtotals are material and labor costs. There's your markup. If there's any discounts you're applying to that client, you can add it in here as well. And then if you're charging tax, you want to add the tax rate in here, and then you're ready to go. Okay, this is your financial information here. And then from there, you can request an initial deposit. I know a lot of you contractors want to request, let's say 50% up front. Here's a reference to the total amount of the estimate. There's your reference to the 50%. And if you're like me, if you want to round up these numbers to make sure on initial deposits that they're even numbers, you can switch to the dollar sign. And then in here, you can customize this and just round up or round down to make the numbers even. You keep the due date. Due date is today's date. This is when you're issuing it. And then in payment terms, you want to change this from custom to due on receipt so that they know that if they accept the estimate, this is something I got to pay right away. Okay. And then from there, we know there's still a balance. So you can set 1, 2, 3 payments, however many payments you do. Again, for construction purposes, you probably want to set these as stages. So let's say demo complete as this stage. So they'll owe you money once that's done. Once rough construction is done, they'll owe you there. And then uh, work completed. So once the job is finished, then they'll owe you the balance there. And again, like these numbers is the same thing. So if you want to go in there and round these numbers up and down to keep them simple for your client, again, I do encourage that. And as you know, every time I do that, it automatically readjusts the remaining balances on the future payments. So you don't have to do anything to here. Here you can schedule the payments. So if you're scheduled to start the work for the client on April the 1st and you think that demo you're going to be done by the following week on the 10th, there's your first schedule. If rough construction, if you think you're going to be done by let's say May the 3rd and you think you're delivering this by May the 7th, let's say May the 10th. There you go. Now you've kind of set a planning expectation of, how the project is going to advance. So this is important information because this is what your clients are going to see and they're really going to appreciate this. So, okay. Any any files you want to attach, you can include here, like again, floor plans, pictures, anything you want. Your terms and conditions to your contract will be here. Let's see if I have mine here. So things like, for example, like your payment policy, a cancellation policy, even a photo release waiver, right? Change orders. So these are the kind of things you want to add into your documents so that you can send to your clients. This is what they're going to see. And then finally, your signature line. Okay, looks like everything is good to go. So now we're ready to send this to the client. So before we send it, we're going to go to preview. And this is where we get to determine what information we want them to see. Again, up top here, they're going to see your company information, hopefully with your logo here. You're going to see their information up here. Go into settings. And in pricing, this is where you need to figure out, do I want to show them detailed pricing, right? That's that information to the right. If you are okay with showing them, then you turn that on. If not, then you keep that off. The totals is a reference to this box. Make sure you leave that on because they need to know how much the estimate is. In columns, I recommend auto numbers, quantity units. These are really up to you guys. If you guys want to show material, labor, cost, markup, it's completely up to you. I don't think you probably do. So I'm going to say, let's turn these off. Item details, leave on description, and then approval. Make sure your electronic signature is turned on. We have an approved like a line item approval here that you can turn on. This is great when you're presenting an estimate where the homeowner said, look, we're interested in these 3 or 4 different kinds of floors. What's the difference, price difference? Let us kind of think about it. So you're going to maybe quote out, let's say ceramic, porcelain tile or hardwood floors or distressed Brazilian distressed hardwood floors. And you show each one. That way the homeowner can say yes on this one, no on that one, no on this one, yes on that one. So then that way you'll have them approving one over the other. Okay. We'll turn that off for there. Okay. As we go, again, you'll notice here in this information, the only financial information is the subtotal, which again is now labor, material, and your markup. It's all right in there. And then your tax, whatever tax you're charging them is right there. There's the total amount. Here's the proposed payment plan that they'll be able to see with the due dates and the stages for each one. There's your terms and conditions, and then the signature line. So all you do is send it to them. You'll get a copy that goes to you so you can see what the document looks like. And then there's a little message here that you can send to them. You can come in there and customize, add some more information. Otherwise, it's just ready to go. And I'm going to show you what it looks like. This is what it looks like when they get it. Okay. So again, down here at the bottom, they'll be able to see the signature line. When we click on the signature line, this is, let me show you again. This is where they can sign here. And there's a signature. So once they've reviewed all the information here, they can approve and sign. And now you'll get an email confirmation that says, hey, congratulations, your client accepted the estimate. And now, once they've approved that, now they can, if your online payments is set up, these actually activate and they can actually pay you the initial deposit right through this very same document. So, which is great. So a lot of ease for the homeowner, and it makes your business it simplifies your business as well.
We have a couple of questions, Sandro. So speaking about the estimate specifically, will the Houzz Pro software notify the contractor when the client opens the estimate?
Great question. Yes. So in fact, let me go back to this mode here. Okay, so you should see the status changing here. If we go into the document, this is what I was showing before that you couldn't see. When we go into the document, it shows the change right there. And in here, it shows shared. So this will tell you exactly when it was sent. When you go back out to the client's folder, when you look at the documents, it'll tell you when they opened it. It's showing approved because they already went through that process. Otherwise, it would just said sent. And then once they open it, it would have said read. And at this point, it's moved to approved because they already moved forward and approved the estimate for you. Was there another question?
Yes. And then I believe that it'll also email you to let you know that the estimate has been opened. So it's a little more comprehensive. So going back to the actual takeoffs. So Michael asked, when you're creating these takeoffs at the end of the day, if you want to send that information to a lumber supplier for a bid, what's the best way to do that? I would recommend probably the Excel export, but I'll let you speak to that, Sandro.
No, I think that's right on the mark, Abby. That's exactly it.
Okay.
That's one of the reasons why we made that export available. Is again, this is a way for you to kind of customize that information. You can now enhance the information because remember, in doing the takeoffs, all you're basically downloading is these three components here, which is which items you're doing, what the unit count was, and what the measurement was. And so now you can add the details about what specific products or items you're looking for them to tell you is that available, right?
Mm-hmm.
Things like that. Okay, let's go on to, let's take a look at 3D floor plans. We get a lot of requests about the 3D floor plans. We've got the LiDAR technology. If you've downloaded, hopefully you've downloaded the Houzz Pro app on your phone. On the phone, you have the ability to do the 3D room scan. If you're starting out from scratch, let's say on your desktop, laptop, computer, there's a couple things that you can do with regards to 3D floor plans. Up here, we already have pre-built out templates for these different rooms. So you can easily access this information and then look at these examples. So these can be seen as kind of an example of how we would transform your kitchen, not as a direct example, like this is exactly what I would do, but this is kind of an idea. And what you want to look at is what kind of kitchen does your client currently have? And almost just as importantly is what kind of kitchen do they want to have? So if they have kind of a closed off kitchen, but they want to create, let's say, an L-shaped kitchen, then you may want to look at this template where you can look at the preview here and go, great, this is something I might be able to show them where I can piece together, again, an example of I would do a center island, then the build outs out here with the cabinets, etc. This is a 2D plan. You can look at it from the 3D perspective and see how it looks and go, okay, this looks like something I can use. So then you use this as a reference, and this can be used to engage with your clients when you're talking about this is a tentative idea of how I would transform your space. So once you've indicated that that's a template you want to use, in here again from the 2D, you can switch to the 3D. This is where you can kind of move this around to show them this is what I would do. I will build out the cabinets here, do the overhead cabinets. I would put the refrigerator there, and you're basically walking them through the design of how you're going to create the layout with the furniture pieces in here. The actual, appliances or countertops or cabinet styles that they choose, that's to be determined. It's more about, do you like my idea? I mean, do you like this idea of being able to put a center island here? In fact, I know we've got like a little, we can even make this a L-shaped island here that wraps all the way around. So there's a lot of things that you can do. And this is great too, because when they're giving you feedback, could we change the floors? Can we do any kind of floors? If you click on the floors, as an example, we've got wood floors, tile floors, carpets. You can literally switch from any one of these examples and go to those and go, okay, are you looking for something lighter? What about something like darker? And you could go through all these different examples and kind of get their feedback. Again, what you're looking for is interaction with the homeowner. So you want to get their responses. Are we going in the right direction in terms of, the kind of style of the kitchen that we're looking to build out? So this is a great, what I call like a lead conversion tool. This is where you get that lead customer interaction. They're very involved and they're giving you their ideas, as opposed to just you showing up and going, okay, let me create an estimate. I'll send it out to you. This should be a part of your presentation when you're presenting your estimate. So this is where you're kind of bringing together some ideas and you're getting feedback from the client. We also have this walkthrough mode in here that I love. This allows you to be in a like a virtual room so they can see. Imagine us having cabinets here that extend to the corners. And again, we can choose whichever countertops you want to do, but this is what I'm kind of suggesting. Let's put the range here with the overhead hood. We can leave the overhead hood open or we can cover it up. So as a contractor, there's so many things that you can use this to kind of help you engage and capture that business. So
We got two questions here, Sandro. Talk to us about cabinet colors. What are the options for cabinet colors? Do we pull from a library or how does that work?
yeah, so like for example, if you so on some of these on these templates, they already have preloaded appliances, cabinets, floorings, things like that. If you don't like what you see, then click on the item and you'll see the options here. You'll see everything from the size options to the actual, oops, I'll go back to this one, to the actual like door style. There's your finish style. So if you want to change it from a gray tone to a chocolate brown,
Mm-hmm.
because you want to create warmth in there, you can add in all of these hardware styles here, including the colors and the type of hardware, how big they're going to be, like how big the hardwares are. So just like, depending on the selections and all that and what's available. So once you do that, again, once you go back in here, you're like, okay, there's the transformation.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine doing this in front of a client where you're like, okay, if you don't like the gray, what if we do like kind of a chocolate a brown, right? And instead of kind of like this kind of wood, what if we do something a little bit softer that lets it pop out? And then you start going and toggling between the different shades of the lighter colors, whether it's in the gray tones or the light brown tones.
And you
So
can also choose from paint colors for the cabinet colors too, right?
yes, all of that, absolutely.
Okay.
So again, it just depends on the item. So like some items you can choose paint colors, other items it's just the finish of what it's going to look like. So again, it just depends on the actual item.
And then Christy asked, can you move the location of the appliances or cabinets?
Yes. So if this is, again, one of the reasons why you're using a template is because you like the way it's laid out. But again, let's use the center island as an example. Let's say that's not something you want to use, a different one. So you can literally move this over along with all these other items as well. And you can change the direction. So if you want it to have a, kind of like this angle, absolutely. So you can switch that. I'm trying to grab the chairs here.
And then also Jeff asked, wouldn't an iPad or laptop be preferable to a phone?
It depends on what. If you're scanning the room, the phone is preferable, right? Phone, tablet, those are much preferable. If you're doing the design, you can only like these parts of editing the information. You're going to need a laptop and desktop computer to do that, right? Even on a tablet, you're going to have limited functions. It's just because of the size of a lot of this information. So you need something bigger than just a smaller device that can handle that. In those devices, you can see the templates because you can show them exactly the templates. But if you want to like manipulate the information, like change out the countertops or the colors or the flooring or the move stuff around, then you need something a little bit bigger to be able to do that. Now, as far as adding items, because that was another part of that question. So let's say it doesn't matter whether you're using a template or you've created your own floor plan, you've got structural items in here that you can add to all of this. So for example, let's say we wanted to create, actually not even a door, let's say a wall opening. So we can, let's use this one, interior door frame. So we'll use this one. I can place this here. So when I go back to the dollhouse view, it just shows an opening there. In fact, let's go back to here real quickly, and we're going to do a different one. We'll do this one. There you go. Again, now it shows the opening, and you can change these dimensions. So let's say you want it to be wider. And you just align them. The great thing about whether it's doors or windows, walls, partitions, there's always a reference to interior lengths between walls and the item, as well as exterior measurements, distances between the outside of the house and the item. So it's just kind of a reference. So you can see like, okay, that's probably as centered as we're going to get. And there you go. So again, you can use these to kind of illustrate, yeah, let's open the wall. So let's open this wall and create an opening that goes into the family room. And in here, you can come to your pencil and you can add. Oops. Let me change that. There you go. You can add your family room in there. So again, if we go back to here, now they're looking into that space as opposed to a blank area. So you're defining this space, and now you're going to do the same thing, which is like, okay, let's add some floors in here, right? We want it to be the same kind of floors as this one. So now you're matching all that up. So again, so now the homeowner sees, great. So now we've got kind of that great room concept that you've created. Okay, so you've got structures, you've got generic products, and then you got source. Source is access to our marketplace. This is where you can actually look at physical items that you can buy on behalf of your client or your client can buy. So again, if you're looking for, let's say, we're going to use this one as an example. So we added a 9-piece dining area, dining table here, right? We added into here. So again, now you're showing them this and going, great, this will be your breakfast nook in here. You have a large family, so we'll do this. Again, you're just piecing these items together. So you've got these 3 different sections in here that you can, input information. So like in your generic products, you can go to like kitchen products, and there's all kinds of different, again, if islands was, a hot point that you want to create some kind of a special island, then you can add that furniture piece into there as well. Okay. All right. From here, the other thing that we want to do is let's show you the video on the LiDAR technology.
Experience the combined power of Apple's innovative Room Plan API and Houzz Pro's immersive 3D floor planner. To get started, ensure the desired room is well lit. Then scan away at a steady pace, gently moving your iPad or iPhone Pro up and down to capture every angle. Watch while accurate lightning-fast floor plans realize before your eyes and tagged objects automatically convert into furniture pieces. Houzz Pro's 3D floor planner harnesses the power of Apple's Room Plan API, enabling pros to hide and keep furniture they want in a digital room. From complete renovations to simply updating decor, pros have the option to start from a blank slate or keep critical furniture pieces. Plus, they can toggle between 2D and 3D with ease. Once the room scan is complete, pros can customize every desired detail on their computer. Homeowners and industry pros like interior designers, builders, and contractors know confidence is key when selling or improving a renovation or design project. And with the help of Houzz Pro's 3D floor planner, leveled up with Apple's Room Plan API, professionals can seamlessly offer clients an outstanding visual of their future home. Homeowners know exactly what they're signing off on, and pros can confidently move forward with their big ideas. A win all around.
Yeah, that LiDAR technology is super impressive. So, and what I do recommend is if you're using your device, whether it's your phone or your tablet, when you're scanning a room, make sure you walk around the room. Try to pick up as much detail as possible: floorings, cabinets, doors, windows, ceilings, just anything that's inside the room. I also recommend that if you haven't ever used it, try it in your house. Pick out the kitchen or the family room or any kind of like a bathrooms, and start to practice that. Once you've completely scanned a room, it'll ask you if you're finished and you just say done. It transfers that information down into a 2D, 3D floor plan that you can now again go back to your computer system, and that's where you can make any of these enhancements and changes to. While we're in here, let's go back. Let's go real quickly back to here. Actually, let me go back into the folder. Another part that's really important is building a schedule. So when you guys are working with clients, building a timeline about the work that you're about to do, especially if you're tackling on these bigger projects that are going to be, 4 weeks, 6, 8 weeks, several months in the process to complete. We've got templates built out here. So they'll cover like home remodels, kitchen remodels, bathroom remodels, and new home builds. So you can take a look at these and see how they look. So this is a preview. So when you click on the templates, it gives you a preview. So like in a bathroom remodel, it'll show you all the different categories and all the items within each of the category. And even though they're in here, if some of these don't apply, you're more than welcome to go in there, either remove them or edit them and change them, customize them to your work. But it gives you kind of a breakdown of your game plan. So when the client hires you, they're going to see this information. So if you're doing a bathroom remodel and this looks like, yeah, my client this works for them, they're going to love this. You're going to apply it as a template. Indicate the start date of when you're going to start the project. So again, let's go back to April the 1st is our start date. It adjusts all your time frames for the April 1st start, and then you just hit apply template. It'll load that template into your client's project folder. So now you can start to kind of build this out. So the first thing it does is, okay, preliminary work. So do we have to do any site measuring, order tiles, bathroom fixtures? It kind of walks you through a checklist of things to do. And then if you have questions about this, you can indicate, for example, what days you're going to start. Like, how long is this process going to be? Is it an all day, like, is it a 1 day thing to do? Or is it going to be multiple days to complete this process? Right. You can also invite team members. You can say, yeah, I want John to be a part of this. And I also want my clients to be a part, but I also want these other subcontractors to be a part of this segment or of this part. You could also create dependencies. What that means is, in order for me to do this, does something else have to happen after? Or is this kind of just an independent job that has to get done at some point? And so let's say this is the very first thing we do. After we complete this, we want the next thing, we need to order tiles. So that's the next leg of this sequence, is someone needs to order tiles. And in here, you could put notes. Make sure to get homeowners confirmation of tile style. You can even add tasks, right? So for example, if you had a task that for the owner, in here, you can indicate, okay, who does that correspond to? So you can tell your client, this is for my client. That's the task I'm sending to them. And you can even put a due date of when they have. Again, you're starting the project March the 1st. So when do you want to know that information by? Right? You obviously want to know as soon as possible, because you want this to go as smoothly as possible. So let's say by the 20th of this month, you're going to give them till that date to figure that part out. Right? So you can add all that tasks to each segment. to whoever it corresponds to. You can also color code each of the segments. You can change it from what it already is. So that's completely up to you. Okay. And then finally, once these items are complete, they can be marked off or checked off as complete. So that way we know the jobs are getting done accordingly. If something's not complete when it's supposed to be due, then you can reach out to who's ever in charge of it and say, when am I going to get this done, or when are you going to finish this? So that helps in the accountability part. It's a great way of, again, kind of monitoring your business. This information, you can also share all of this information with, again, giving your client access in their client dashboard, as well as your contractors or subcontractors access as well. So again, this is that part where you can share the information with your team members and or subs and vendors. Okay. Let's go back to the project and let's look at selection boards. In fact, I'm going to change projects here real quickly. And let's see, I'm going to go to this one. Yes. Okay. So a project board is basically where you're going to piece together a presentation, ideas, if you will. In that project board, you can create what's called a mood board. A lot of interior designers work with a mood board. And what that is basically a concept. So, in other words, if this room that you're focusing on is the kitchen, you're presenting information about like what kind of flooring you're recommending, what kind of main color you want to use in that room, and then you can even make suggestions about the types of appliances that you'll use. You can add inspiration pictures about this is the kind of kitchen I want to build you, the one that's got the two center islands with the trim work up top with the coffered ceilings and all that. Some of these products you may want to say, look, I strongly recommend that we get, for example, the Wolf gas range and the Sub-Zero refrigerator, and the quartz countertops and the porcelain tile flooring. So you can add these as part of specific products that you're recommending to the client, and you can create a budget. So let's say the client's overall budget to remodel their home was 500,000 and they want to spend about 100,000 or 125,000 on the kitchen alone. So you can create that budget in here, and by indicating, okay, these four items are part of that budget, it'll show you if we buy these, this is how much of that budget that includes, or that takes up, right? Because you want to also calculate how much you're going to need for construction purposes, as well as like how much is going to be needed to buy all these other materials as well. So in here, we have a selections library. This is where you get to add information that when you've used the Clipper tool to download information from, again, like let's say an external website. So let's say, for example, your client is talking to you and they say, yeah, I want to do a coffee maker. And in here, you've got let's say a freestanding coffee maker. And they say, no, I want a built-in coffee maker because I want this to be really posh. So you've downloaded that information here. Now you're going to add it to your folder or to your presentation board. Oops, let's go here. And so now we've made it a part of this. So let's remove one of these. And so now you include that in here. And now we're going to include this in the budget. So when they're looking at a coffee maker, they're going to go, okay, this is the custom built-in coffee maker. And now we include that in the budget. So now there's your budget as it increases proportionally. Again, this gives you a great handle on how to effectively manage your projects. And it also kind of really brings to light to the client of when they want high end, this is how, those high end features, how much of the budget it's taking up. So it kind of helps reset expectations or helps keep expectations in perspective. Any questions about the selection board? Once you've created this board, you can preview and share and send it to your client. Again, you've pieced together a mood board, you've got your products. You don't necessarily have to do a mood board. You can just strictly do products that you're sending to them that you're looking for their confirmation of, yes, I agree, that I like that. Those are great products. In fact, even with the mood board, they'll be like, I don't like the design. Can we, get back together and review this? But I like these suggestions. So that happens as well, where I like these suggestions because I like we're heading the right direction with these kinds of appliances and items. So you'll send that out to them so that they can review it. If they review it, what you can do is then go, okay, great. Now we can convert this information into an estimate. Or if this is a project, in other words, this is a client and this is just another segment that you're doing in their project, you can now create an invoice for these items because they've already been approved. So this is all changed from pending to approved, and then you convert these items and create that invoice. Again, everything goes back into the documentation. You've got here's your product information, here's the details of the product information, and then there's all the specifics to each of the product, right? And then now you're just sending this out. So again, this is the cost of the items. This is your proposed markup. So when you go to send this out to them, again, you want to make sure that you're showing them only the right information. So I do recommend like detail breakdown, which is all this information here, and then showing totals. Detailed pricing and category pricing, that's probably, I'm not sure if that's what you want to show. Let me back out that screen a little bit. Actually, there we go. That should be fine. So maybe those items you don't want activated. And then in columns, again, auto number, quantities is up to you. If you guys want to include this information, you can. And these four, again, goes back to those four that you may not want to have these activated so they can see what your costs are. There are some contractors I have that they show everything. So, and then activate description. And again, approval upon issuing or sending. There you go. So then at this point, all you do is just send it to them. Again, you'll get a copy of this invoice, this new invoice, and you send it off to your client. Okay. And then let's go back into the folder. So once you've selected those items, and let's say the homeowners approve those items, and you've actually sent out purchase orders to the vendors, you can go into the selection tracker. This is where you get to monitor all of the activity of all either pending items that have to be approved or items that have already been approved by your client, and what the status is with the vendors, where these purchase orders are and all that. So you can see them by different categories of like the planning part. You can see the financial information of like what was paid, what's not been paid, and any procurement information, or you can see everything in total. So again, and you can even go and switch these from the board mode to the tracker mode, which is great. So you can see them in kind of both different formats.
Something else that's really helpful with the selections tracker is that you can export it as an FF&E schedule. So you can export out those selections, use those on the job site, transfer that information to subcontractors who might not be as tech friendly. So it's really helpful for that as well. And then, like Sandra was saying, this tool can be your procurement team's best friend, or whether you're the person handling procurement or you have a full team of people, this is a really great tool for them. They can add tracking information, know if something's been ordered, and have kind of an all-in-one place to track that information. So this is a really cool new feature for contractors. So super exciting.
The other thing that I love is the tear sheets. So if you're very visual, or you and your team, print down the tear sheet. I mean, print it out, and that way you can double check all the information and make sure everything's going in the right direction. There's another place that you can also see, like, to be able to track so that information. So if you go, for example, to like all your invoices or your purchase orders, in your purchase orders, this is great because you can see what the status of the orders are. Same thing with like change orders. So it's just another tool that we have that makes it available for you to monitor all of that activity. So there's just different parts of the system that you can use to kind of double check to make sure that things are moving in the right direction. Okay. And then project management. Let's talk a little bit about, let me go back into here. Let's go to this one. Project management. This entire Houzz Pro is really designed to streamline the entire process, where you don't have to go to use 3, 4, 5 different programs, email systems, spreadsheets, CRMs, and document systems. So it's all designed to be in-housed in here. So when you're looking at a client's folder, you're going to see all the documents that you uploaded, floor plans, pictures, whatever they may be, are all here. Any 3D floor plans you've created, any schedules you've made are here, and same thing. It's all here. So this allows for you and your team to monitor all of the activity just by looking at this one page here within each of the project folders. And this allows you to go within here as well as look at any one of these specific areas. One thing that I do want to touch on lightly is the client dashboard. So a lot of you probably have questions about, okay, if I want to share some of this information with my clients, do I get to share all of it, some of it, part of it, none of it? So this is a great way to be able to connect with your homeowner, with your client, to be able to share some information, like for example, messages. It's automatically activated. So like from the moment you send an email or they respond or there's a text message, all that information is housed in here, right? And the same thing. So if you want to show them financials, so in here, like in financials, they'll be able to see whatever documents are in any of these categories, and they'll be able to see what the status is. For example, like they have an open document that needs approval, right? So here it is. Here's a change order. If they clicked on it, they would see the change order, and then they would either be able to approve it or decline it, right? So here again, here's the copy of this. It keeps it all in front of the client. Let's go back to the dashboard. And so you'll see all of that activity here. And then you can send this information to the client, which is great. So you can send this information to the client so they'll have access to it. This is, again, a great portal for them to be able to kind of see everything that's going on with the project. And then lastly, we want to talk about the Houzz Pro app. Again, if you've downloaded the program, you want to be able to log on, sign on to your program. There are two apps. There is one that's got a black background with a green house. That is the Houzz Pro app. That is access to your project manager here. The other one is a white background with green house. That is the Houzz app that gives you access to the website. And also, if you have a professional profile on Houzz, it gives you access to your profile. So I recommend that. And I think that wraps it up.
Thank you guys all so much. Like we said, we will be sending a recording of this out so that you can kind of go back through at your own pace and learn a little bit more. And as always, if you have any questions or feature ideas, we are all ears. We love to hear from you guys. So feel free to always use the little intercom button in the lower hand right corner of your screen to reach out to us. Those are real people on there. So they're happy to talk to you and learn more about what you need. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.